Let's cross over now to London for updates from Juliana Olanka. Good morning, Juliana. Well, it's a brand new week. What is it looking like in London and what are the expectations?
Good morning, Chimise. Well, the FTSE opened in positive territory this morning. I think it opened up about 6 points. The major concern, which has been a concern over the past couple of weeks at varying periods, is this new second wave of the coronavirus. Over the weekend, that major milestone was reached. So over 500,000 people have died of COVID-19. And we are seeing across America that several states are re-locking down. They just opened a couple of weeks ago, and already pubs, bars and restaurants are locking down. And we've also seen something similar here in the UK. Leicester, which is a popular town just north of London, has now started potentially locking down some of their residents. There was a huge amount of people that were infected in one cluster area. So there have been calls by Public Health England speaking to the Mayor of Leicester, asking them to lock it down. So the government are really going to be keeping a forensic look at how Leicester respond to these calls, because, of course, what the British government will want is that they can lock down certain areas, as we've seen in Germany, rather than locking down the whole of society, which we've done for 3 months. And we're having plans to reopen society on Saturday much further. So that's a major weigh-in on traders this morning.
And schools in England are being promised about £1 billion rebuilding program as Boris Johnson commits to giving children a world-class education after months out of the classroom. What's the update on schools resumption, particularly with this rising cases of COVID-19?
Well, schools have pretty much resumed or not resumed. I think it was a little bit of a shambles last month when the Education Secretary did ask schools to open. Most schools said they couldn't. Some parents were too worried about doing so, and they only opened to people from a particular age group. So some have opened, some won't. But Boris Johnson and the Education Secretary said by September all schools will be able to open. This £1 billion promise is a little bit separate from that. This has been a long-term goal and strategy from the Conservative government. Of course, they've had pressure from lots of other parties to do so. And really, the National Audit Office have said that schools will need funding of up to £7 billion. So the Liberal Democrats in particular have been speaking out about this morning, saying it doesn't go far enough. Details at the moment are pretty vague. We're expecting an announcement by the Prime Minister Boris Johnson sometime tomorrow to lay out exactly where this money goes. But there is speculation that really this is to say thank you very much to the people of particularly the West Midlands and the north of the country who gave up their Labour vote to support Boris Johnson. And it's those schools that have really suffered the most. The buildings are not that strong. They don't necessarily have enough infrastructure. And part of the long-term strategy for Britain to try and get themselves out of this COVID-19 standstill is to improve education. So we are expecting to hear from Boris Johnson tomorrow, but he has been doing a round of interviews on media today. One of the statements he said is that as we bounce back from the pandemic, it's important we lay the foundations for a country where everyone has the opportunity to succeed, with our younger generations front and centre of this mission. And so we are expecting construction as part of this first wave of money to start as soon as next year, September.
And in another development, energy regulator of GEM plans to make some of the rules designed to protect customers struggling financially during the COVID-19 crisis a permanent part of its oversight from this winter. I'm sure this is good news for most people, but is it for the companies?
Well, wow, it's not good news for the companies, but they're not the priority, Chimise. It's the hundreds of thousands of people that potentially could face not having any hot water or heating because they can't pay for their bills. And it's been a long-running issue between energy suppliers, who are, of course, extremely wealthy, and the poorest of poor in society in the UK. But of course, that's been accelerated because of COVID-19, because many low-income families have, of course, lost their jobs. The government did urge these energy suppliers to provide payback holidays. So for the past 3 months, most people, or people who are the most vulnerable, haven't been paying their bills. From the 1st of July, energy companies do have the opportunity to start chasing this money. But Ofgem, quite rightly, the regulator has asked them to put a hold on that, to not be too harsh, and that they should be able to at least provide some credit facility. So at the moment, the credit facility is an option for these companies, but Ofgem are now trying to make that into legislation, so that if your meter gets to a certain amount and it's soon to be running out, if you can't afford it, these energy companies should be able to give customers £5 or £10 or £15, £20 credit, just to make sure that they don't go to bed cold or without gas, which is incredibly important.
All right, thank you, Juliana. We look forward to update from you later in the day.